It's time for another Paper Wings video tutorial. I'm Chris Oatley. I'm the co-host of the Paper Wings podcast, which you can find at paperwingspodcast.com. And at Paper Wings, we teach you how to draw comics and how to write comics and how to create web comics and all kinds of other fun stuff. Self-publishing, there's all kinds of good stuff on there. And today I'm going to talk about Google SketchUp. Google SketchUp has become a popular way to cheat perspective. Well, actually, it's not cheating perspective. It's just doing perspective faster for your backgrounds, environments, vehicles, whatever kinds of geometric objects that you need to put into your comics. Okay, so here we are in the Google SketchUp interface. This is what the program looks like when you first open it, and this really is the issue for most people, is just figuring out the interface. I know that was the biggest barrier for me to get started. So by the end of this video, we'll get past the hurdle of navigation and the basic tools, and you'll be able to just start today sketching and in perspective and blocking in vehicles and environments and backgrounds for your comics. So the first thing we need to talk about is navigation, and this is in fact the weirdest part. SketchUp is really designed to be used with a 3-button mouse, and although there are other ways to navigate, that's the traditional way, and that's the way I'll be describing in this video. But you can head to paperwingspodcast.com/SketchUp Mac, where I'll link to a video that somebody else made that shows you how to navigate using the Mac trackpad. But anyway, there's basically 3 main points to the SketchUp navigation, and it's tumble, pan, and zoom. And tumble is sort of the Michael Bay thing where we rotate around an object. This is just clicking on the middle mouse button and then moving the mouse. And that's what happens. And then if you add the shift key to that, so click on the middle mouse button and then add the shift key, you get a hand icon here, and then that pans up, down, left, and right. And then lastly, there's the zoom, which if you have a mouse with a scroll wheel, you can just zoom in and out. And then also just a side note on scrolling, if you it will zoom wherever you position the cursor. So if we position it on this person here, we'll zoom in on that person and zoom out from that person. Also, I just happen to like the zoom tool over here because of the speed with which you can zoom. If you just hit the Z key, or you can select it right here on the toolbar and just scrub on the screen, it zooms out really fast. Okay, so the first thing we need to do to start modeling is fire our assistant. So I'm going to grab the select tool. I'm going to select our lovely assistant and hit the delete key. And then I'm going to tumble to get a kind of an angle on the ground here. I'm going to zoom out. And you can see the blue line is the vertical axis. Whoa, there. And then we have the green line and the red line, which are our horizontal axes. I'm going to go over here to the toolbar, and I'm going to select the rectangle tool. And I'm going to go over here on the ground somewhere, and I'm going to just click and drag. And you can see here this dotted black line that forms between the 2 corners. That's telling me that it's a perfect square, that it's symmetrical, and we'll just make it sort of a rectangle. I'm going to grab the push-pull tool. That's the P key, or you can just select it here in the toolbar. And notice when I hover over the plane, you'll notice the blue polka dots that show up there. If I just click on that plane when there are blue polka dots, meaning that I'm allowed to pull out of this plane or push into this plane, watch what happens. And then there we have a rectangular solid. Let's put a little door on this house. Did I tell you it was going to be a house? I can't remember. It's going to be a preschool drawing style house. I'm going to grab the rectangle tool again, and I'm going to click and drag, and you'll notice that I'm drawing on the face. I'm actually drawing on the white plane. The blue dot there underneath the pencil, if I go off here, you see that there is no blue dot. If I go over, you'll see there is a blue dot, and then if I leave the mouse still for a second, it just says on face, and that means that I'm going to draw on that face. Google wants to snap everything that you're drawing onto another piece of geometry. So that's usually what you want, seeing as how typically the techniques for modeling in SketchUp are kind of starting with a simple shape and pulling or pushing shapes into that or out of that until that shape becomes more complicated. And so that's obviously what we're doing with this house here. So I'm going to draw that door, the front door here, and let's make it something like that. And then I'm going to draw another rectangle. Sometimes you have to zoom in a bit when you want to get more detail inside of this, and we'll make this like a sort of a trim around the door. Okay. And then I'm going to grab my push-pull tool, and I'm going to push that door in a bit, and I'm going to pull the trim out a bit. And there you go. And then we can start, you can get in here and get more complicated if you want. I'm going to grab the cylinder tool, and I'm going to just draw a cylinder. And then I'm going to go back to my push-pull tool. I'm going to zoom in even farther here, and I'm going to pull that cylinder out. So if I go to this cylinder here and I try and use the push-pull tool again, it'll just continue to extrude or pull out the cylinder. Control Z to go back. And so what I want is I want a wider doorknob on here. So I'm actually going to hit the Option key, and I'm going to extrude again, but I'm just going to do a little bit there. And you'll see it puts a break in the cylinder. And I'm going to one more time, Option key. I'm going to grab the Select tool, and I'm going to select the break. I'm going to select the skin. I'm going to select the break on the front, or the edge around the front face, and I'm going to select the front face. So basically what's going to become my doorknob. Then I'm going to get a little bit better angle here. And then I'm going to grab the Select tool off the toolbar, and you'll see if I hover over the corner, it's kind of hard to tell here. Zoom in a little farther, but you can see the black diagonal line running through there that shows that I'm going to uniform scale, meaning it's going to be the it's going to all stay the same size and proportion. And then if I scale up, it gets all weird there, like that, because it's scaling from the other point. So what I want is to hold the Option key, and you'll see that red box jumps to the center. So now I'm going to uniform scale from the center, and then I'm going to scale that doorknob up, and now I have a doorknob. And if I wanted to, I could scale down and make that a little skinnier there or whatever, but it's just for what we're doing here, this is all we need. And now we are going to raise the roof. That's ridiculous. Okay, line tool. It's the pencil in the toolbar here. You can also hit the L key. I'm going to click on that, and you'll notice Google SketchUp wants to find the middle of things all the time. And so if I just hover over this edge, you'll see it snapping to the midpoint there. The point turns blue, and then I know that's the middle. If I leave the mouse still, it says midpoint. And then I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to draw a line straight across. I know I'm drawing a line straight across because the line is red, and I know that this line is parallel to the red axis because the line is turning red. If I move off the red axis, it's no longer parallel. It just turns black, and I could design an organic shape in here if I wanted to. With a lot of your models, you're gonna end up running into organic shapes at some point. I recommend staying symmetrical as long as possible, because the more organic your shapes and the more asymmetrical or non-uniform your shapes become, the more unpredictable the results will be with things like the push-pull tool and the rotate tool. Keep it simple for as long as possible, and gain complexity as you go. But if you're going to do some sort of crazy organic shape, I recommend trying to have that, save that stuff for last if you can. So I'm going to draw my line straight across, just hovering all the way, and then I get here, it says midpoint, and I go, okay, I'm just going to click on that. I'm going to grab the Select tool again. I'm going to select the line, and then I'm going to grab the Move tool, which is right here. It's also the M key. And then I'm going to pull that directly upward, and I can tell, of course, that I'm moving directly up the blue axis because why? The dotted blue line there. If I move off the blue axis, you can see here it's asymmetrical. I've moved off the blue axis and the dotted line turned black. So I'll try again. Blue line, and there we go, off axis, but blue line keeps it perfect, centered. And there you go, centered roof. Looks kind of like a Monopoly house. That's one way to do the roof, and probably the most simple way, but I want to show you a couple of other techniques here with SketchUp that are kind of just important to note. I'm going to grab the select tool, I'm going to select this top face, and I'm going to delete it. Hit the delete key. And look, I love what you've done with the place. And, and find the midpoint. And I'm just going to hover upward. And you'll see this is the blue axis. So I know I'm going directly upward there. I'm basically going to draw the peak of the roof. I'm going to hit the escape key so it'll stop connecting. I'm going to actually draw the midpoint there. And I'm going to draw this line directly upward. And then because I don't want that shape, I don't want it to lean forward, I'm just going to draw straight across there. And then now I have a little extra bit of the line here. I'm going to select that, hit delete. Okay, so now I've got my peak drawn. And now I'm going to connect all of these dots. You'll notice it finishes the planes for me. And then look at that. See how fast this is where you kind of figure out, wow, if I really do just try and do simple stuff, I can really blast these models out pretty quickly. And really for our purposes with comics, doing comic environments, you don't even have to clean this up, but if I wanted to, I could go in here and get rid of that. I've created a window here. It's just a very narrow rectangle. I'm going to take my select tool and I'm actually going to triple click 1, 2, 3 like that. And by triple clicking, you'll see that it selects the whole object as opposed to just those individual parts. So you can make sure that you get the entire object. And then I'm going to grab my move tool and I'm going to go vertically upward. I'm going to go vertically or horizontally forward. I'm going to spin around here. I'm going to go red axis backward. And then I'm going to bring this over, whoa. Put it somewhere. Whatever, that's fine. Now you'll notice that my house is a completely different shape than the window. Right? And let's just say that I had a really complicated thing going on here, a really complicated object, and I want to move this whole thing. Well, I want to group this window and this house together so they all move together. So I'll just drag a big old selection box around that, and I'll right click, and then I'll just click this here, make group. Now I can select this group, and if I just click on anything, it will just select the whole group, and I can use the move tool and I can just move the whole group around. That's really nice. Now here's the difference between making a group and a component. If I just undid that. That was, by the way, I was hitting Control Z to undo. So now I'm back to just normal, to two different objects here. If I make this whole thing a component, select the whole thing, right click, make component, and I'm going to call this house. Look, it looks exactly like a group, right? But now let's duplicate it. I'm going to grab the move tool and I'm going to hold the option key and drag it sideways. So now they're side by side. But that holding the option key and dragging with the move tool is what duplicated it. And I want to edit the component. Now it allows me to edit the whole thing, so I can select the individual pieces. And look, when I triple select or triple click that window, the other window of the original component is selected. And then I can scale this up, and the whole thing scales. how you can easily see how you can very quickly create a city. You could build, 5 different buildings, and then make 5 components of each of those 5 buildings. And then if you needed to change the size of the windows or the height or something, you can edit one building and 5 of them will change at once. So it's very practical for creating cities or parking lots full of cars or whatever. If you need a sea of something, it's very practical. SketchUp is very practical for doing that. And of course, then you've got your ability to fly the camera around and get whatever kind of shot you want to get. And then one more thing here, I want to show you the field of view on the camera. So if I go up here to the camera menu and I choose field of view, I can actually change the lens on my camera from wider angle lens to get maybe more of a dramatic kind of shot. You can make it so wide that it's weird. Or if I want to maybe be more of a long lens kind of look here. More of a Edward Scissorhands kind of thing going on. So that's pretty cool. And I'm just scrubbing with that tool just like I did with the zoom tool. And then, like I mentioned earlier in the tutorial, if I want to, pick out an angle for my comic panel, I don't even bother actually rendering anything. I just find the camera angle I like, and then I just on my Mac, on the PC, just hit the print screen key, but on my Mac I hit Control Shift and the number 4, and then that gives me these little crosshairs, and I can just select that, and it automatically creates a PNG screenshot. And I just take that screenshot and open it up in Photoshop and draw over it in Photoshop. So there you go, my friends, breaking through the barrier of entry to Google SketchUp and unlocking an ocean of possibility. I have my friend Justin Copeland. You can follow him. He's JustDog, JUSDOG on Twitter. Amazing guy. He works for Marvel Animation and does almost all of his storyboard environments in SketchUp. He builds these sets in SketchUp and then just flies the camera around and gets all these great angles. And, he might spend more time at the beginning actually building the model, but then it's like, all of a sudden he's just drawing storyboards left and right because he can just go and pick out his shots and move so much faster. So yeah, this is just great for especially for webcomics folks that are on a tight schedule usually. So I hope this is helpful. Head to paperwingspodcast.com for much more information about drawing comics, writing comics, all other sorts of fun stuff, comic conventions, and leave us a comment. Subscribe to our email newsletter to get our storytelling tips in your inbox. And we look forward to seeing you on the site. Head over there now, find the blog post associated with this video, and leave a comment. Introduce yourself, and I guarantee that you will be welcomed with open arms. Good people at paperwingspodcast.com. The wingers, we call them. So come over and join the community.